The Archaeologist server functions as a node on the Sarcophagus network. The server creates an outer encryption layer on the Sarcophagus while also posting the data on the permaweb of the Arweave network. Some things to keep in mind is that the Archaeologist pays fees in a few different ways. There is a one-time gas fee related to the initial running of the Archaeologist. There is another fee related to adjusting the configuration file of the server. Every time you change the configuration file, the server will need to update, and that incurs a gas fee. Finally, every time you unwrap a sarcophagus, there is a gas fee. When setting up the configuration file for the server, we need to keep the fees in mind. This is especially when setting up the fees associated with adjusting the configuration file, as that is the one that is most easily mitigated, but also most easily missed. Let's take a look at the parameters. Please keep in mind all values are expressed as strings. Please make sure that even if you adjust any of the parameters, they must remain within the double quotes. First, we have the ETH node. This needs to be running a WebSocket that allows the server to query needed data from the Ethereum network. You can use a WebSocket from infura.io for this. Next, we have the ETH private key. This is the private key of the ETH wallet that will pay the gas fees on the transactions. After that, we have the payment address. This is an optional field. If you wish to have payments paid out to another address that is different from the one linked to the private key, you will need to provide that address here. Otherwise, you can leave it blank and it will pay out to the addresses linked to the private key. Then we have the mnemonic. This will be used to generate the public and private key pairs for the outer layer of encryption. You can use the website iancoleman.io/bip39 to generate a mnemonic and plug it in here. After that, we have the Arweave key file. This is the file path to your Arweave key file that you have. If you have an Arweave key file on your computer and not on your server, you're going to want to transfer the file securely to that server. Next, we have the Arweave node address. This can remain set to the public node for Arweave and does not have to be touched. After that is the Arweave fee multiplier. This is the multiplier on the fees associated with Arweave. This is here to adjust for any volatility on Arweave, but recently Arweave has begun to normalize and the default multiplier should suffice. This is up to you to change, but know that the multiplier represents a percentage. For example, 10 equals a 10% multiplier. The next two variables are the Sarco contract address and the Sarco token contract address. The default is on Rinkeby, but the mainnet addresses are there to allow for ease of changing from the test network if needed. After that is the endpoint. This is the domain that you must own for the server to work. You must put the domain here, but you also need to make sure your domain's DNS is pointing to the IP address of the server as well. Then there's the file port. This is the port you decide to open on your server and receive the Sarcophagus asset file. This can remain as 8080, but keep in mind this needs to match the port on the proxy on the reverse proxy setup. Now we have the fee per byte. This is the amount of Sarco you will get per byte of data that is stored. If this is too high, embalmers could avoid using your server at all. The default is a good place to start. Next, there is the min bounty. This is the minimum bounty of Sarco you would receive for completing a sarcophagus job successfully. This means unwrapping the sarcophagus when the embalmer does not attest within the set time period. That bounty is followed by the min digging fee. This fee allows an archaeologist to be paid during the lifetime of the sarcophagus. This fee is paid every time a sarcophagus needs to be rewrapped by the archaeologist server. After that is the max resurrection time. This is the time interval you're willing to hold onto the sarcophagus. For example, if I say I will have it for 1 year, then a file cannot be held for more than that time period. This is expressed in Unix time, and if you use Unix timestamp, you can determine how long you wish to have the max resurrection time to be. You just put the date in for a year from now, and the timestamp will display in Unix. For the min bounty and min digging fee, keep in mind that the longer your max resurrection time, the more you need to think about your fees. Users can keep their sarcophagus all the way up to that time, but they can also use it for as short as they would like. Having a 10 Sarco bounty for a max resurrection time of 5 years may not make much sense to the archaeologists, as they will be paid very little. But having a bounty of 1,000 Sarco would deter embalmers who are looking for a shorter time period. The bounty and digging fee complement each other for this exact reason. Finally, we have add to free bond and remove from free bond. These two variables will be reset to 0 each time after the service is started. These parameters need to be manually updated every single time. The archaeologist needs to post a bond on the creation of each sarcophagus. The bond acts as collateral in the case of a bad acting archaeologist. This will trigger a slashing event that affects the network and the specific server. The archaeologist server needs to have as many Sarco tokens available as the bounty plus fee they are about to accept. Add will allow the archaeologist to add tokens to be used to take on more jobs due to the fact that more bond can be posted. You will want to use remove if you believe you have too many Sarco tokens that are sitting stagnant. These two parameters can cause the most pain when it comes to gas. If a server has too few Sarco tokens, then the archaeologist will keep paying gas fees to add Sarco. If you put in too many tokens, the remove from bond will also cause the server to pay gas fees. Based on the fees you're requesting and the maturity of the network, an educated guess needs to be made here. Understanding the parameters will help to run an efficient server that can take on many requests while avoiding excessive gas payments. Remember, the only avoidable fee is the one associated with adjusting the configuration file.